What are Chelsea up to exactly under Boehly? In this video, I'm going to go through the ins and outs. Well, actually, I'm not going to go through all the ins and outs because it's absolutely ridiculous. But we're just going to sort of dissect what the plan here is. Because I get the idea it's wonder kids. I get the idea that maybe in 5 years' time they might be absolutely awesome. But there seems to be a stockpiling of players. There seems to be some slightly blurry areas around business ownership, Blue Co, etc. There seems to be some slightly, I'm not going to say dodgy, because this is not a slag off Chelsea video. It's just trying to understand what's going on. But beyond all that, the worry within all of this is, while maybe it could be the masterstroke of the century in a couple of years' time, are Chelsea, one of the most successful clubs in the last 20 years, as an Arsenal fan, someone who I did not like playing, did not enjoy playing, knew full well that Drogba was going to make Senderos cry most of the time, are Chelsea, that wonderful team, really starting to lose their identity? We all love transfers. Well, I did a video yesterday about Eze. I was like, couldn't sleep last night. I actually had toothache last night. And seeing the Eze deal go through made my toothache go away, and it's not come back since. So you don't need to go to the dentist. You just need a Crystal Palace creative midfielder, and it will sort you right out. Let me assure you of that. But so transfers are great. No one's denying that. But when you're talking 39 transfers since 2022, when you're talking about 1.44 billion spent, I would hazard a guess that a lot of Chelsea fans would not know 20 of these. They wouldn't be able to list them off to you. They might be able to, obviously Cole Palmer was the absolute diamond of the rough. And I mean, beyond that, I mean, you maybe in the future, you know, the likes of Estevio but you look, I mean, look, Dewsbury Hall came and went, Koulibaly came and went, Aubameyang came and went, João Felix came and went. Not all making good money, by the way. I mean, they had to fog off a couple to Saudi Arabia because, you know, there are links to Saudi Arabia. We can talk about that a little bit as well with Blue Co. But it's just, what is the plan here by Boehly? The long-term contracts, let's talk about that first. So the course of, they've changed the direction of football with these 7-8 year contracts. It seems that is to bypass the financial fair play where you can pay your asset over the course of time, and against your spreadsheet, that makes sense. So I guess that makes sense. It's quite high risk when you do it for players like Mudryk, who is shit, by the way. You do it for players like Nicholas Jackson, who is also, despite a few goals, shit, by the way. You do it for players like Nkunku, who came with a big pedigree, but seemingly is shit, by the way. These are all players that seem to be quite disposable now. They've come and gone. They're not wanted anymore. There's Garnacho and Xavi Simons coming in. So when you've got such a big turnover, surely these long-term contracts are going to bite you in the backside eventually. I mean, what the hell are they going to do with Mudryk? That was an absolute bullet dodge by Arsenal. So yes, I get the point of these long-term contracts, but of course the issue's going to be when you get a few dud ones, and there's already a few of those coming through, what the hell do you do with them? Going into the wonder kid side of things makes complete sense. We all love a wonder kid. We all play Football Manager, and we picked up those 16, 17-year-olds. How often do you actually see them play? Because no one could be asked to play Football Manager that long. And that's a similar thing with Chelsea at the moment. When Boehly took over Chelsea, they were third in the league under Thomas Tuchel and had just won the Champions League in 2021. They weren't a bad side. They could have just maybe sprinkled a few wonder kids in, and like most teams, just bought 2 or 3 players, and they'd probably be knocking on the door of the title. They had Lukaku, who, okay, never really fit under Tuchel, but surely he's better than Jackson. Surely he's better than Aubameyang. They loaned him out despite spending 100 million on him previously. So there's been some really suspect decisions there. It's like they just decided that team, Mason Mount, Kai Havertz, the team that won the Champions League. Okay, Timo Werner is shit. But that team, they just done away with in its entirety and started again. And it didn't seem like it needed to be the case. And that makes you think maybe that's the reason Tuchel left. He didn't get a fair crack of the whip. They brought in Graham Potter, Pochettino, this turnover of manager. Again, these long-term contracts aren't going to suit this high turnover of manager. It looks like they've got a good one now with Enzo Maresca, but does anyone really back that he'll be there at the end of the season if they are 8th, 9th in the league? Probably not. So it's just the idea. I like the idea of wonder kids. Who doesn't? But there's a lot of turnover of the wonder kids coming and going on loan, going to Strasbourg. There's a couple going to Dortmund this week, I read. I don't even know their names. And this is the point of the video. Chelsea are a big club. I'm going to say it. They're a wonderful club. They're a big asset to the Premier League. They always have been, certainly under the Abramovich era. They've been so competitive. How can we have players that we don't know who their names are? How can we? There's so many ins and outs. And that's the worry here, is that are Blue Co becoming the identity of Chelsea Football Club? and no more so than what I read yesterday. On the same time the Eze deal was going through, Blueco have signed Julio Enciso from Brighton. Now, there's a few things that, I mean, a bit like David Brent, some questions here, okay? Firstly, why are the company buying the player? Like, that's a strange thing for Ornstein to put, right? Because Ornstein's a very professional man. He will put the right information. And I suppose because he's probably going to go straight to Strasbourg, he's felt obliged to put Blueco, but that's suspect. So, a few questions. Financial fair play. Is it Blueco buying the player or is it Chelsea buying the player? Is he immune to financial fair play? Is it through the company? Isn't that what City have got 115 charges over, with Etihad helping them out and just paying all the debts? What's the deal here? I just think there needs to be a bit of clarity around this. I get selling the women's team, as bizarre as that may be. I get the idea that we are putting long contracts to avoid financial fair play, but it's almost like trying to avoid financial fair play for the sake of avoiding financial fair play. And with Blueco buying, and then, by the way, Enciso, by the way, is not a young, I suppose he's quite young, but he's not like an up-and-coming French second division player. He's a Premier League winger. I wouldn't say proven, but he's knocking on the door. They're spending over £20 million on him to send him on loan. Like, who does that? What's the thinking pattern behind that? Is the idea he does quite well at Strasbourg, so they might sell him for 30, 40 million? But I just don't get it. Like, they're trying to get Xavi Simons and Garnacho, who I believe play in the same position as Enciso, and they've also got Pedro Neto, who's a right winger, but they always play him on the left. They got Gittins on the right. They got this Estevio on the right. There's just this stockpiling of players, which I'm not going to say the word sort of player laundering, but when you look at what happened with Aston Villa when they bought Amari Kellerman for £19 million, I went to Derby several times when Amari Kellerman was on loan there. That is not a £19 million footballer. He played a few times for Derby, not very well, by the way. I think he played once for Aston Villa, and Chelsea paid £19 million for him. Why is that a big deal, do you think? Well, Ian Matson went the other way at the same time for £35 million. Both complete write-offs on financial fair play because they both were homegrown players. That, to me, and Villa are struggling with financial fair play as well. Is there a bit of like, you scratch my back, we'll scratch your back, just handing players to each other? Maybe stockpiling, that's handy because you can do that to offset financial fair play. It seems like Boehly's task is just to try and do really cool things that just avoid financial fair play, but doesn't actually progress the club. And okay, fine, they won the Club World Championship. Okay, fine, they won the Conference League. We all know Chelsea fans are not asked about the Conference League. They've had amazing nights with Didier Drogba in Munich. They've had amazing nights recently beating Man City with Havertz getting the winner. They're not asked about the Conference League. The World Cup Championship, I actually think was a fairly cool tournament to win. But they're finishing in the back of the Champions League now. But remember, they started third. They started third. They spent 1.4 billion and did a massive yo-yo effect. And I'm not entirely sure they're better off. And forget the actual winning games thing, which obviously is the most important thing of it all. You can argue maybe the most important thing of all is the identity of the club. Now, I know a few Chelsea fans, not many, and so this is not, a load of data to go by. But I do think the ones I know would be a bit like, yeah, it's fine. Of course, we're Chelsea till we die and everything. But it's not the same as the Lampard, Cole, Drogba, Terry days, the Peter Cech days. That was a club that had something about them. They were Chelsea, they were hard to beat. They defended well. They were big, strong, horrible blokes, that did really well. Lampard getting goals from midfield. Terry being one of the best centre-halves of all time. Didier Drogba being the ultimate handful. They were winners. And what you got left over now is just this kind of like spreadsheet team, stockpiling players. And other than Cole Palmer, are they any better off? I don't see it. And maybe I could be completely wrong. And maybe it will come on this video and say, Estevio and who else? David Washington and Aaron Anselmino and Mamadou Sarr and these players. I mean, Sancho went on loan for it, but didn't he? These players who... And the biggest crime of it all, the number one crime of it all, they have spent £1.4 billion and they've got Roberto Sanchez in goal, who, by the way, for the record, is shit. That is scandalous not to... All the goalkeepers they could have had. And they got him in goal after spending that. It just seems a little bit directionless, a little bit like someone who's got a lot of money on Football Manager and they have no idea what they're doing. And please... Chelsea fans, if you're watching this isn't designed to give you the hump. I actually want Chelsea to get their identity back because I think they're good for the Premier League. I believe it or not, even though when they were battering Arsenal, when Mourinho beat Wenger 5-0 in his 1000th game or whatever it was, broke my bloody heart, the whole entire thing. It's when Oxlade-Chamberlain got sent off against Kieran Gibbs. Or was it the other way around? I can't remember. But yeah, that game broke our hearts in so many different ways, Chelsea have over the years. But I would rather that Chelsea than this stuff, you know, because I just don't think this is what Chelsea's about. And I do worry, are they setting themselves up long-term to have a bit of an investigation? It seems ridiculous to say that because they're doing it wide open. I'm talking about it on here and I don't know everything, but it seems there's some really suspect things going on. And when you've got the City charges in the background, I'm pretty certain if they do get done for anything, City, the first thing they're going to do is go, okay, cool, what's going on over there? Blueco, buying players, third right, whether it's called third right ownership. Wasn't Mascherano and Tevez not allowed to do that? West Ham said, you know, there's all this stuff. I mean, maybe it wasn't changed since Mascherano and Tevez, I don't know. But it just seems a bit pointless considering Chelsea were already a fantastic club. And it just seems high risk, unnecessary, all to just avoid financial fair play. I don't know. What do you think? Let me know. Like I say, this is not a have a dig at Chelsea video. This is a let's get Chelsea back video because I think they're better than this. And I think actually it could be impeding them more than they actually realise. Let me know in the comments. I will look forward to hearing from you soon. This is the Hedge Press. Please hit subscribe, hit like. Join us for daily videos around football. Of course, we've got the weekend coming up now, so I'll be reacting to the results. But yeah, let's see where Chelsea end up. I might be horribly wrong. Who knows? All the best. See you soon. Bye-bye.